It's finally here. Harry's much-anticipated memoir, Spare. We'll be looking at what's in it, how the royal family will react, and what the public have said so far. But although it may seem like it's all about Harry, it's actually business as usual for the rest of the royal family. And they've recently gathered to celebrate the first Christmas without the Queen. And Kate has turned 41, so happy birthday to her. This is the Royal Roundup. I'm Sophie Braybrook, and joining me today is royal commentator Afua Hagen and brand and culture expert Nick Eade. Thank you so much for coming in. So, where do we begin with this book? I mean, there is so much in it. There's an allegation that Will physically attacked his younger brother, but there's also stuff about Charles and Camilla. Afua, what did you make of it?
I mean, my jaw hit the floor about 50 times reading the book. I think it's very beautifully written. I mean, the ghostwriter has done an excellent job. We saw loads and loads of headlines, but actually, in context, the book reads quite differently. Yes, there's lots of shocking moments, but there's some really incredible stories in there. It's clear that Prince Harry is very well travelled. He's been everywhere from the North Pole to the South Pole and everywhere in between. It's also quite sad. You know, you get the impression that for a lot of Prince Harry's life was overshadowed by grief from the death of his mother and the effect of PTSD that had on his life, both from the death of Princess Diana and then from his time in the army. I thought the sections where he talks about being in the theatre of war was actually less about, you know, the headline of I've killed 25 Taliban soldiers, but we're talking about how it feels to really be in those trenches, and also him talking about one of the first times that he felt like a normal person. He didn't have bodyguards around him.
What did you make of the allegation against his brother?
This is sibling rivalry, siblings together. I've got an older brother. I've had altercations with him over very many things, maybe not so much as I will be falling over onto a dog bowl. But I do think this is personally a concerned brother, really worried about his own brother, going out there, standing on his own 2 feet and just being worried, and it's become and escalated into where it went in the book.
And what about Beardgate? So this is the moment when Harry accuses his brother of not being happy about him wearing a beard to his wedding. Why is this relevant, do you think?
I think William just felt like, I'm not having this. If I can't have it, then neither can you. Shave it off. I will say, though, I think the beard looks better on Harry than it does on William.
I think so, definitely.
Right?
I think it's a metaphor as well, really, for a lot more. You know, you're using this as a tool, but to be honest, if anybody is in a gilded cage, it's actually William.
Absolutely.
And that's what the big issue is here. It's a brother who's probably very frustrated that his younger brother is actually allowed to do far more and can have a beard and get away with it, and William cannot. And this is where I think a lot of this lies.
And I think that also comes up with the whole Africa's mine thing.
Totally.
So the conversation where Harry's talking about what he wants to do with his life. So Invictus Games is a huge part of that. And he also wanted to continue his conservation and ecology work across Africa, whether that's to do with gaming, to do with poaching, or to do with sustainability. And William was furious about that. Africa's my thing. I mean, Africa's not yours. I don't own the continent of Africa.
Do you think there's a sense of jealousy there from William?
Yeah, I do think there's jealousy, and I think there's a real deep-seated frustration, because actually being the heir has so much responsibility. He's seen his father wait for many, many, many years to get to where he is, and now obviously being in his 70s and only being the king is a huge pressure. Most people are retired and putting their feet up. This is a man who's actually got to step up to the job. And William's probably looking at that and thinking, oh, I'm going to have to be doing that in a few years' time. And is this great? No, I'd love to be like my brother. I'd love to be able to do this. I'd love to be able to have, not anonymity, but I wouldn't want that kind of all eyes on me and the respect that they are on William. I suspect that Prince William is just as traumatised as being the older sibling who's had to look after his brother, or feel he's had to, after the tragic death of his mother. And Diana is one of the people who, obviously, the biggest sort of through line of this whole book is it's an ode to her, and in every page or every time I've listened to him, he mentions her on a repetitive way, which you would do if you had a mother die in those tragic circumstances. So I think there is a lot that we don't know about William, what's going on in his head, because he has this responsibility to the crown and the country. He has probably an aching responsibility to his brother, but he also has the tragic death that has probably overshadowed both of them in different ways.
And how about the depiction of Camilla? What do we make of that?
The only real thing we get from Harry on Camilla is that he feels that she was the villain of the piece and that her life has always been about getting the man that she loved and getting the crown, and that she would do anything, even if that included throwing Harry under the bus, leaking negative stories about them to make herself look better. Harry is quite determined that that's the only thing that we should know about her. But then we also get little hints and inflections of what she might be like. You know, there was a point in the book where he talks about Meghan speaking to Camilla and asking her for some advice on some things, and Camilla advising her on that. You know, about when he first met Camilla and said that she was perfectly pleasant. Then he also did say that he didn't think that that meeting was very important to her.
One of the biggest issues with culture as a whole is we have things like the crown. So people are referencing to Camilla in this. We're watching her being quite sort of snide and sneaky in a made-for-television drama. Now she's been painted as this villain by Harry. There's no way out for her, really. However, it does say, Harry, that he does see his father being happy. And in the end, it's about happiness for everybody.
He obviously also said that he and William didn't approve of the marriage.
Yeah.
What do you think Charles is going to make of that?
I think that definitely is a red line, that going for, you know, the future queen is not it. And you don't do that. Camilla has had a remarkable change of heart from so many people. I mean, who would have thought back in 1997, 1998, would be sitting here talking about Camilla being queen consort, when the polls back then told you that was absolutely out of the question. But when Queen Elizabeth II more or less rubber-stamped that by saying that she wanted Camilla to be queen consort. And so I think the great British public, especially in the lead up to her 70th birthday, did take her into their hearts and have and will. She will be coronated alongside King Charles III on May the 6th. And so I think that by Harry saying that him and William, remember it was him and William, didn't want King Charles III and her to get married, I think for King Charles that will be a red line, and he won't be very happy about that as well. And William won't be happy that his name's being dragged into that whatsoever.
These are big allegations, aren't they? Do you think the royal family are going to have to respond to some of these?
I mean, the issue is, how much do you respond to? You know, you could literally delineate this book and go chapter by chapter and say, OK, well, on this point, you know, it's fact-checking, it's also responding to things which might have meaning. I do think that the royal family does need to make some kind of comment, but as we know, never complain, never explain. And we need to see whether King Charles is progressive enough to actually overstep that line and say, OK, this is what we're going to say to this. This is how the royal family is going to respond. And we're doing this as a united front, and we need to now move on. It's going to take a while, I think.
Yeah, and obviously Harry knows that never explain, never complain motto very well. And he said he's telling his side of the story, but as you said, he's actually dragging lots of other people into it as well.
If Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace had shut down negative stories, had defended Meghan and Harry when they needed it, he wouldn't have felt the need to do this in the first place. This is a way to shoot down all the negative stories that went out in the press, to tell the truth about them.
So do you think that's why he's done it?
Absolutely. Like, don't get me wrong.
You don't seem to agree with
that. Nick, I'm gonna get it. Let me land. I mean, yeah, he's been paid a princely sum. He obviously needs to make money for him and his family, as we all do. But I think this is also his chance to tell his side of the story. He just is getting a pretty packet for it.
How similar is this book to Princess Diana's, the one that she did with Andrew Morton? Because she obviously had a very difficult relationship with the press as well.
They're both really important from a historical point of view. And, you know, as you said, it is important to have his view. And in many ways, he's lucky in the fact that he has escaped the palace. You know, has he found freedom? I don't think he has yet. But he has gone on that way. So it allows him to be more open and tell you about what it's like to be in that institution. And in the same way that Diana tried to do so with Andrew Morton and really wanted to explain why there were these anomalies that were going on around her. I mean, the unfortunate idea that this was leaked, and so all the tabloids, who he absolutely hates, have been splashing it here, there and everywhere and making their money, must be galling to him.
Yep.
But also, there is a hypocrisy there that he's just done a front cover of People magazine, which really is, you know, a tabloid in America.
Yeah.
You know, he's going on to Colbert, he's going on to these shows, and he's using the media in a manipulative way to sell a book, make money, and drive sales.
But that's what
I know, it's about, of course, I know.
That's what it's all about. I mean, whether he likes it or not, he's caught up in this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
He's absolutely part of it, caught up in it. What comes first, chicken and egg? And I think he also feels that, look, if the tabloids are going to write negative stuff about me, let me get mine.
Yeah.
Right? Let me also make my money.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to make money off me, let me make money off you.
Let's have a think about how Harry's reputation will have fared as a result of the book. I went out to speak to people at Buckingham Palace yesterday, and this is what they had to say.
He was so popular in the UK. Everyone loved him. Everyone empathised with him and his story, and you know what he's been going through. But now with the book, I think it's just not about him anymore. It's exposing the whole family, and there's a lot that I don't think the public needed to know about.
What he's saying is his story, it's his narrative, and it's not our place to judge him because he had a really difficult time. He didn't have a love and warming father.
It disappointed me a bit. The way he went on about what he did in Afghanistan, how many men he killed.
How else can they really make money, I guess? I mean, Meghan could go back to acting. I'm not sure what Harry could do.
So quickly, I should say that on top of this, I actually had a lot of people saying quite negative things against Harry. One person actually said that they thought the book was a load of rubbish, but they wouldn't speak on camera about it. So with that in mind, Nick, as the PR guru, what do you make of all of this?
Well, I think for Harry, this is difficult because it is, as you said, first of all, it's crossed the line when it comes to the royal family. It depends on really how they're going to embrace him from that kind of PR story. From him and a personal PR, the guy who said, what else can they do? It's true. You know, literally, his narrative and his story is about the royal family. He's going to be associated with that for the rest of his life. So if you're going to sell it out, then you do. And also, they need to think about where this is going.
Yeah.
You know, are they a one-hit wonder? Is just sort of bashing the royal family or communicating maybe negative stories about the royal family and their truth, is that his only way of actually making money? You know, going on to these different chat shows, we are not yet getting Harry the personality. With the documentary, I found that really interesting. I thought it was a really good piece of education for people who might not know about the Commonwealth and also might not know about systemic racism and also might not know really about press intrusion. However, I think the book is kind of almost petty in some of it, and the kind of almost oversharing, whether it's about a penis or whether it's about, you know, losing virginity, or whether it's about, as we've talked, you know, drug taking as well. These are risky things to talk about. People are going to have a different opinion of you. And do you want Harry to be standing up at your big conference and talking about empowerment where you can see somebody who's pretty damaged?
Yeah.
I don't know whether there's a disconnect there.
But I also think he wants to show now that he's in a period of recovery from those things, that accessing therapy is very important. This is a story about grief and the impact of grief. This is a story about mental health. And actually, I think a lot of people will buy into that side of Prince Harry, will buy into the kind of, you know, bad boy turned good, you know, and now he's happy with his nuclear family. And there will be a lot of people that will say, you know, this is first world problems. You've got this hugely privileged young man from this hugely privileged family that has access to money and power and all of it. But I think this also shows that just because you have those things, it doesn't mean that you are happy.
From a PR point of view, though, there's a lot of damage that has been done. I think with going on to the different television shows, giving different interviews, I think potentially the concentration of this news from both of them. We've had Netflix, we've had Spotify, we've had this, and there's a fatigue there. And what I would suggest is, from a PR point of view, is like, that's it, guys. Enough's enough. You need to go back, rethink, work out what you want to do, what your next steps are. Let's look at where you're going to build your legacy and what that looks like for a future. For you two, as really the Kardashians of the royal family as well.
Okay. This is obviously not just people from the UK talking, but there's a lot of tourists in there as well.
Yeah.
How do you think his international reputation is going to have changed.
We're in a global 24-hour news cycle. Everybody is talking about this story. I mean, the book first came out in Spain, for goodness sake. Who knew that Spain was a hotbed of royal publishing? I didn't. But, you know, I think globally, people are going to get to a point where they're like, OK, enough is enough, and they are going to get to a saturation point.
So I want to now cast our minds back to Christmas, which feels like a really long time ago.
It does, doesn't it?
2022 was a historical Christmas for everyone because it was the first without the Queen and the first with the King. And actually, Charles broke with some traditions this year, and everyone was waiting to see if he would. He recorded his Christmas speech in St George's Chapel in Windsor Castle, where both of his parents are buried. How else did this differ to how the Queen did it for so many years?
You're talking a lot about what people are going through, the cost of living crisis, referenced, you know, people are working the emergency services as well. I think doing it in St George's Chapel was a really nice tribute to his mother, actually, and really he probably wanted to feel that she was with him in his first speech as king at Christmas.
At the beginning, it was very religious, and he talked a lot about his faith. And it was very interesting. I mean, the Queen used to, but I felt really it was quite poignant for him to do so. And I actually felt a little bit uncomfortable because of it isn't something that I'm an atheist and I don't think in that way. But what I did like was that he turned it around and he became extremely inclusive and talked about everybody from who had any religious belief or who didn't. It really did feel like he was addressing everybody. And you could also see there was a vulnerability. He had just lost his mother. He was in a chapel which has a lot of memories for him. He is taking on, as you say, after 70 years, this huge burden to be king and to rule into a whole new era.
Why do you think he stood up? I feel like that could be quite significant.
All of us will have, if he had sat at a desk gone, oh, it's not the same as the Queen, we'd all have referenced it back to her. So let's not do that. Let's look at him in a different context. He's a man who wants to talk to everybody within the nation and within the Commonwealth and set it out in his way. And doing it in the church, doing it with that beautiful Christmas tree, he did it in the right way.
And also, if he'd been sat at the desk with the pictures, would have been like, OK, Prince and Princess of Wales,
exactly.
OK, where's this person? Where's Meghan and Harry? Where's Prince Andrew? I think by taking that element away completely, no desk, no pictures.
And don't hand him a pen.
Yeah.
But there you see, that's probably why.
Yeah. So just remove all those elements. He doesn't have to have a hissy fit about a pen. And we don't have to worry about what pictures he's got. And he also wants to make it his own.
Is it normal to see traditions change this quickly? I guess we don't necessarily know unless we look quite far back into history.
I mean, it's been 70 years.
Exactly. I mean, you've never had a broadcast on television. You've only had the Queen really do a proper live television broadcast. So whether he'll be in the chapel next year, I don't know. He might be somewhere else. This could be his thing, that he goes to different areas, different castles, shows people a glimpse into the world of the royal family.
But
it could be great.
He could come out with castles and do them like on the high street.
Exactly.
That'd be nice,
outside
wouldn't it?
broadcast.
Yes, in front of like a Primark or something.
Or maybe with Harry and TK Maxx.
That would be nice, wouldn't it?
But lots of Christmas traditions weren't broken this Christmas. We obviously saw the annual church service at St Mary Magdalene when Prince Louis was wearing shorts.
Where is he?
There he is, with his little knees.
And he's got his knees out.
He has got his knees. He looks okay,
He looks happy about it.
He doesn't look like he's got a cold knee.
He's got
with his dress
big coat on.
Yeah.
The thing about the royal family is that, as we know, it's about tradition, and also it's about perpetuating a kind of image. And this is an image that we see, sometimes you see William wearing the same clothes as Louis does and George does as well, or we see this sort of referencing of past outfits that they've both kind of worn that are quite similar.
And it's a very traditional look, isn't it? A little boy in shorts, knee-high socks and a dress coat. It's very oldie-worldy, with ease on the end of both those words, isn't it? I really, really love Kate's outfit. I have to say, the hat, the coat.
The coat's amazing.
The colours, the boots, everything. And I always look at the boots that they wear because I think, can you really walk in them?
And also what's great about Kate is that she does a lot of occasions of recycle or rewear her clothing, which is really important, and again, a great message for her to do that.
At Kate's carol service, the women seem to be dressed in burgundy as well.
Yes.
A lot of people were picking up on this with regards to Meghan's tale where in the Netflix documentary when she talked about the fact that she wasn't allowed to wear colour or that the royals weren't allowed to wear the same colour. And a lot of people were saying this is a kind of a sign to her that actually, yes, we can.
It's an on-trend colour. It was a Christmas Carol
Yes.
concert. A little email went out. Wouldn't it be nice if we all wore burgundy? It's nothing to do with Meghan.
So you don't think there's anything more to it? They're not
No.
trying to present this united front that people are talking about?
I think they are trying to present a united front, but I don't think they're doing it to make Meghan
No, they're
mad.
not doing it in a kind of vindictive way. They're doing it because, you know what, we actually look really lovely and that cranberry colour is perfect because it's associated with Christmas.
Exactly.
So it's been a rough time for the royal family, as we've discussed, with everything that's been coming out. How do you think the monarchy are going to come through this?
Let's remember that the monarchy has survived worse scandals than this. This is not an abdication, which I think was definitely a crisis point. Wallis Simpson and all that. The death of Diana, Princess of Wales, was another crisis point. And the royal family, then the monarchy survived that as well. They will survive this, but it should be also used as a time for the institution to look at itself, look at the practices that it has, and look at how it can modernise going forward.
Do you think they will modernise going forward?
They're going to have to modernise going forward because the royal family, the institution, the monarchy exists because of the people. And without the support of the people, the monarchy will cease to exist. You have to become relevant to the multicultural countries that you deem to preside over.
This whole heir spare element, Nick, do you think they're going to modernise in that specific way and maybe give the spare a bit more of a role?
The king will have to really have a good think, and especially William will need to think about his children and what their future's going to look like. I look at the royal family as an onion, and what Harry has done is he's peeled quite a few of those layers off, and they've got to decide whether they want to keep those exposed or regroup. I think what's really important for them is to look at it, take stock, and work out what the messaging should be to the outside world. But we still love them, we'll still respect them, and we'll still want to be part of this wonderful family.
Well, that's all we've got time for this week. My thanks to Afua and Nick. I will be back soon with the latest on the royal family, and I hope you can join us then. See you next time.